Hi, this is Rich Nelson of Escape to Suomi. Welcome to this very special edition of Finnish Football Shorts Behind the Quarantine. I had a chance to speak to the sporting director of the Veikkausliiga champions KuPS, Jonne Lindblom, about how the club are coping with the closure for coronavirus and their ambitions and hopes for the rest of 2020. Do you get a lot of these requests for interviews and updates?
Yeah, you get some questions, but it's so difficult to have the proper answers for because it's such a weird situation. But we're just trying to cope and find a solution to stay.
I guess in your sort of short time with KuPS, no one would have ever expected anything like this. It's not an ideal way to start a title defence.
No, and in a way it's extremely frustrating because we feel that we got a really good squad for next season, and we had a very good pre-season. Team was looking good. All the players, they were in a great shape, and we were hoping to hit the form straight away from April. And now obviously players, they've been training on their own, and now we start training in small groups, but it's like starting the pre-season all over again.
Yeah, I mean, things have been off for, I guess, over a month now. But in terms of, the day we're recording this, sort of the middle of April, I know KuPS and a few other clubs have started training within the government guidelines. There's only so much a person can do individually when you're playing a team sport. In your role as sporting director, do you get a lot of sort of chance to monitor what they're doing?
Well, no, really. Obviously, we started when this virus started in Finland. We put all the players and all the staff for the summer holiday. So for that 1 month period, the player, they just need to keep up their fitness on their own. So we can't really give them any tasks or program for what to do. So for players, for the past few weeks, it's all about keeping their fitness level high as possible. But it's difficult to have the same intensity in the trainings when you work on your own. And of course all the players that they are playing football on their own or in small groups. But for example in KuPS it's a difficult situation because all the football pitches are locked up. even the stadium, it's not, we've been able to, all the players have been able to train in the stadium in small groups and on their own, but now we start because we need to renew the pitch, so that work starts next week. So it's difficult to find a solution after next week where the players can play.
Okay, well, obviously, I was going to ask you about the pitch actually, because I know there were some issues around that. I don't think anything had been announced, but obviously this gives you an ideal time to actually do that ahead of the start of the season, whenever that is. Yeah,
because the initial plan was to do it in mid-May, so now we can do it a little bit earlier, which is one of the positives, because you need to find some positives from this difficult situation. So now we can do the pitch before we start the season.
And it's good to, obviously we're still in a position where, again, not being an expert of any kind, we don't know when next year's Champions League qualifiers will start. So at least that I know there was some, again, everything's a rumour at the moment. There were talk about maybe playing the games elsewhere, but at least now, if that pitch is done in time, you can actually play the games in Kuopio.
Yeah, that's what we are expecting. Obviously, our CEO is dealing with the pitch issue, and so he knows more about that. But in an ideal situation, we can play the Champions League games at home. When that will be, no. So obviously, UEFA, Finnish FA, Veikkausliiga, all the government bodies, we are just trying to come up with plans how to start the season, when to start the season, but there's so much we can do, because obviously in the end it's not down to us to decide when we start playing. Well, I think the biggest issue is that I think early in the summer we could start the season behind the closed doors, but for us, and I think for most of the clubs in the Veikkausliiga, that's not a solution, because we are not going to gain any revenue by playing behind the closed doors, and financial aspect, that's the biggest problem in this situation.
Yeah, and I guess another difficulty would be that KuPS have a new coach who,
Yeah.
I mean, I know he's been there a few months, but trying to integrate various new signings and whatever tactical ideas he has, it must be a challenge.
Yeah, obviously, when we, even though we won the league, there's been big changes at the club. We have a new head coach, new assistant coach, quite a few new players. So in a way, we get more time for the players to understand the new tactics and so on. But like I said, we felt that we had a really good preseason. The players understood what the new head coach wants from them, and we started the Finnish Cup. I think it was the first game against Haka away. It wasn't good performance, but the more games we played, we started to look really good. So it's always, you read all these speculations in the media, who's going to be in the top, but we are very confident that we have a very good team and we're going to be challenging for the title again.
I've seen you'd made quite a few signings. It was nice to see Nisila come back on loan. What sort of challenges have you got with the new signings? I mean, especially and they had a couple of new foreign players. Are they still in Finland, or have they gone back to their home countries?
Yeah, all the players are in Finland except the Norwegian left back Mats Håkenstad. He's in Norway, and then Ats Purje is in Estonia. Besides that, all the players are in Kuopio.
Okay. And have you got to the point yet where it becomes an issue with contracts?
Not really. We just need to follow the situation, see what happens. I think with the loan players, we loaned 3 players. So with those 3 players, it might be a bit more tricky than with the players we got on a permanent deals.
Now, before you were the sporting director at KuPS, you were for quite a long time, and seeing this from the other side, are you still getting offered a lot of players, or is there still any opportunity for people? I suppose you probably get sent YouTube videos on a daily basis still.
Yeah. No, actually, it's been surprisingly quiet. Obviously, I was an agent for nearly 10 years, and I still got loads of mates who are agents all around the world, and I speak to them on weekly basis. And based on those discussions, there's nothing happening. Not even in the bigger leagues. No clubs are recruiting at the moment. So it's very, very weird situation in the world of football.
Yeah, I think following it from our side of things, anyway, it's interesting where we're in a position where 2020 was going to be such a big year for Finnish football. With the Euros being moved, were you aware of what sort of plans KuPS had in place to make the most of the Euros, and are they the sort that might be able to be moved to next summer?
No, we'll see what happens. It is very disappointing and frustrating, because finally, after all these years working with the Finnish football, we felt that now Finnish football is on the rise. National team was doing well, and obviously KuPS won the league, so you had such a big hopes for 2020, and now everything is uncertain. So it is disappointing, but it's the same all around the world now, and it's a global problem, and we just need to be patient. But we know football will be back, and after that, I think we'll appreciate football and sports more.
One thing I thought I'd ask as a general question, because I know quite a few of the listeners to the podcast are based in England, and in England some clubs are still holding on to the old system where the manager is the king. What, as a sporting director, now there's an understanding that your role is different. How does that work in sort of a modern football club?
I think, obviously England, it's sporting directors are on that that common compared to continental Europe. But I think more and more, Premier League clubs and Championship clubs, they are starting to have sporting directors. I think it's in a modern world and in a modern football, you need to have a manager. He can't do all the work on his own. So, for example, at KuPS, obviously, I'm responsible for recruiting and scouting players, dealing with agents, doing the contracts and so on. But in the end, it's the head coach who has the final say. So I'm not gonna, even though I find a player who I really like and really want to bring to the club, if the head coach disagrees, it's his decision. So you need to have a very good cooperation with the head coach and with the rest of the coaching staff to make it work.
Okay. And obviously, in your previous role, one of your sort of big, I would say discoveries, but one of the big players that you were involved with was Alfredo Morelos. Do you still keep in touch with him, and are you still enjoying that his success at Rangers was, I would say, a surprise, because a lot of people saw him in Finland doing so well, but are you surprised at how well he did?
I don't think we expected him to do that well at Rangers straight away, but soon as, because we started working with Morelos, it was years ago when he was in Colombia. He was considered as a big talent, but he was unlucky with injuries. He didn't make it Independiente properly, and 1 year before we took him to Helsinki, we had offers from Benfica, Everton, similar offers than what we were able to bring him to HAK, loan with option to buy. But at the time, his market value was around 2 million, and then he was just, he was unlucky. He didn't play much. He was injured, and his market value came down. But soon as when he came to Finland, it was obviously it was difficult for him in the beginning because he didn't speak any English. It was new culture for him, but he's always been a hard worker. So when we sold him to Rangers, I knew that he will score goals for Rangers. But it's been a fantastic fairy tale, and I'm still in touch with Alfredo and with his wife, and one of his agents is one of my best friends in the football. So it's a joy to watch his story, and when he moves to a bigger club.
Fingers crossed that you might be able to dig up some more gold for KuPS in the next couple of years. So as a KuPS fan, it'd be nice to have something to hold over, and not one of the older Freddie Adu type signings.
Yeah, it's it was obviously it was a good time for me to come to KuPS, but there are many things I want to achieve at the club and to do things with differently. One of the plans, we want to have a squad with more resale value, which wasn't the case when I arrived to the club. But you can't do all the changes during the one transfer window you want to achieve in the longer period. So it's something, I've enjoyed. I've been there for 7-8 months now, and I really loved it from day one. And hopefully we can build the club to the next level and compete for the titles regularly and bring in more young talents from Finland and from abroad as well.
I mean, I've been following sort of KuPS anyway for probably the best part of 11 or 12 years, and I'm watching it now. It's interesting seeing that there's still young players coming through, but there seems that, or certainly last year anyway, it's hard to see about this year, but that blend seemed to work a lot better. And are you hoping for more academy players or more players from the farm team coming through?
Yeah, definitely. When I've been living in South Finland all my life, so Kuopio was a not so well-known region to me, and when I went there I could see straight away that how much it means to the local people to have local players in the team. So we want to, develop more young players, with more our own players to the first team. And to be honest, I don't think our academy is doing well enough at the moment. We are not producing enough good players. So that's something we want to change in the future. Obviously, it takes a lot of work to achieve that. But
did you have any involvement in the TV show playoff?
Yeah, obviously I was involved in the show, but I didn't know about that in advance. I was just informed that KuPS will be participating in the TV show, and if I want to play a role in it, now it's been done. I think it was all right, but it could have been done better. There were quite a few issues with doing such a TV show for the first time. Obviously, it's difficult to find the right time. We filmed it in early January, and which was roughly 4 months before the season starts. So it's quite difficult to find solutions how you can keep the winner as a secret and so on. So I think it was interesting, but I'm not sure the end product was as good as we were hoping for.
Well, hopefully if they do another series, and we'll see. Maybe this time next year we'll be talking about the next big thing.
Yeah, maybe about I think what is fascinating for football fans and sports fans in general is to see what happens behind the scenes. So therefore, I would prefer some kind of documentaries than reality shows. But for me, it's no matter what the show is, when you see something that what happens behind the scenes, that's always interesting.
Yeah, I mean, KuPS have launched their own podcast, Möllimäki, in the last few months. That seems to be doing quite well. Have you been on that at all?
Yeah, I was in one show. We were just once we finalized the squad, we were discussing the recruitment process and the work behind the scenes during the preseason. And Vicky and Juuso, they've been doing a really good job with the podcast, and I think the quality of the podcast is extremely good.
Well, it's got something that's definitely come along in Finland in the last couple of years. I know. I mean, speaking myself, I'm sitting in my living room with the dog and a microphone, and we could call this a podcast, but it's a lot of the clubs are doing their own ones, and a lot of fans are too, and it's nice to see. I think that there's a big buy-in from the players. It seems like nice that, even for me, after all these years, very poor grasp of Finnish, it's nice to hear foreign players, because they're usually interviewed in English, which always helps.
Yeah.
One last thing I was going to say was, in terms of the KuPS side of things, I mean, I think the last time we were over was maybe 3 years ago, and was trying to buy a jersey, and I ended up walking all the way into the stadium, into one of the offices, before I managed to actually find someone. I even walked into a dressing room at one point. The stadium, again, this is another thing that's going to be put on hold for the foreseeable, but how far away are we thinking about the new stadium coming along?
We are not far. That's something our CEO and the owner has been working for years, and hopefully, and I think I haven't heard the latest updates for a month or so now, but I think we are very close to finding a solution. So hopefully in the near future we'll have a new stadium.
Oh, lovely. As I was really looking forward to taking my kids to the Champions League game this season, but I think it would have tied in very nice with my wife's birthday. I'm sure she wouldn't have minded that on a nice Tuesday evening. Anyway, hopefully football returns quickly and safely, I guess is the main thing, and we can get back to having KuPS win lots of games again, which is always good. Well, for me anyway. Jonne, thank you very much for this. Really appreciate your time, and best of luck for whenever the season starts.
Thank you. My pleasure. Thanks for the invite.